Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about the elections in Pakistan. Last night, we told you how the Pakistan army has turned the elections in the country into a war. And tonight, we want to talk about the Pakistani women braving the violence, all in an attempt to save democracy. You see, the conditions are not conducive. Of the almost 6,500 candidates contesting the elections, only around 5% are women. And what's more, in some parts of the country, women are being barred from political participation. Their husbands are barring them from voting. You heard that right. According to multiple human rights groups, Pakistan is facing a severe gender voter gap. Let's just break down the big numbers for you first. According to data, at least 4,806 men are contesting elections for the National Assembly. In comparison, only 312 candidates for the National Assembly are women. And there are 2 transgender candidates of the eligible voters. 46% are female, 54% are male. That means 69 million are male voters, 59 million are female voters. Despite constituting a large number of the population, women still remain politically unheard, unseen. Here's when we put the spotlight on the women leaders of Pakistan. They are breaking the barriers, they are pushing for change, and they come from diverse backgrounds, by the way. But their challenges are the same. Take, for example, Zeba Wakr. She is a YouTuber and an Islamic influencer. She is running for the first time with the Jamaat-e-Islami. She is using her platform to educate women about Islam. She says she wants to empower women through religious knowledge. Zeba Wakr focuses on economic empowerment as well as strong anti-harassment laws. Next, we have Samar Haroon Belur. She was thrust into politics after the assassination of her husband, Haroon Ahmad Belur. He too was a politician from Awami National Party. He was shot dead by militants shortly before the last election. It was claimed by the Pakistan Taliban. And Samar continues his legacy with Awami Workers' Party, advocating for job creation, especially for the youth. Even though Hindus represent a minority in the deeply conservative country, 25-year-old Savira Prakash is contesting polls freely from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. She is a recent medical graduate and she is advocating for religious harmony and inclusivity in the country. She is contesting polls with a ticket from the Pakistan People's Party. Savira wants to combat gender-based discrimination. And perhaps the most popular female face is Maryam Nawaz, the daughter and heir apparent of former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. She is considered the party's de facto number 2 leader, and all reports indicate that her father is paving the way for Maryam to take over the reins of the party. The Constitution of Pakistan reserves seats for women, but political parties rarely allow women to contest outside that quota. This time, the beleaguered political party of Imran Khan, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, has fielded the most number of women in the upcoming polls. The PTI has allocated 53 seats to women, the most number of tickets among the big parties in the country. The party, which has been stripped of its electoral symbol, has 28 female candidates fighting for the National Assembly constituencies and 25 fighting for the provincial seats. While these numbers may not sound particularly thrilling, here's what else you should know about women's representation in Pakistan. The other major political parties in Pakistan don't even come close. They have fallen short of giving even 5% of the tickets to women. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari-led Pakistan People's Party, PPP, has given tickets to 35 women, 11 for National Assembly seats and 24 on provincial seats. This is just 4.5% of its total candidate list. Similarly, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party, the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, PMLN, has given tickets to only 28 women. Of this, 12 will contest polls for National Assembly, 15 for the provincial seats. This is just 4.2% of their 668 candidates fielded by the party. The far-right Islamic extremist political party, Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, has allocated only 11 tickets to women, which is the least. It makes up only 1.5% of the total candidates. In comparison, the newer parties are doing better. Istehkam-e Pakistan Party, which will be contesting elections for the first time, has awarded tickets to 7 women. That is 7.2% of its total candidates. Meanwhile, Muttahida Qawmi Movement Pakistan has issued tickets to 13 women, which is 6.7% of its total candidates. The electoral laws in Pakistan make it mandatory for political parties to allot 5% of their tickets to women. Clearly, several Pakistani political parties have failed to meet this legal quota. It has even invited the wrath of women rights organization in Pakistan, the Aurat Foundation. It has lodged complaints with the country's poll panel. The Aurat Foundation wants legal action against these parties. And if that wasn't bad enough, several parties prefer not to field women candidates in their strongholds. This is clear discrimination. After reviewing at least 8 political parties contesting the polls, the rights group presented the bleak picture of women's participation in the elections. Yes, the country has witnessed some encouraging signs of women's political participation. For example, for the first time in Shangla, which is a district in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, a woman is running for elections. Nadia Sher Khan is running for elections on PTI parliamentarian's ticket. Still, Pakistan has a long way to go. It is a deeply polarized society with many challenges. As women fighting elections or even participating in the democratic process, it's not an easy task. Recently, a group of clerics issued a fatwa against political canvassing by women. They called it a political stunt. As I mentioned earlier, in some areas, women are also being barred from voting by their husbands. In rural sections of the socially conservative country, the society is still governed by a patriarchal system. Male village elders who have great influence within their communities are barring women from voting. And as a result, millions of women remain absent from the electoral rolls. Therefore, progress has been sluggish outside of cities and in regions where tribal customs are in place. You see, this is the true face of Pakistan. Disproportionate representation and deeper societal issues are only limiting Pakistani women's participation in politics. Unless women are truly treated as equal, unless they are given the same resources to contest fairly, and until they are allowed to exercise their franchise, can Pakistani politics truly be considered democratic? Artificial intelligence is eating your job. Let me repeat that. Artificial intelligence is eating your job. When not directly replacing you, AI is enabling those skilled in artificial intelligence to eat your job. No matter which field you are working in, which sector and niche you specialize in, one thing is for sure, AI is slowly but surely making inroads. Here's proof. Snapchat's parent company, Snap, is reducing its global workforce by 10%. That's 540 employees losing their jobs across departments. Snap, like I was saying, is the parent company of Snapchat. Every day, over 406 million people use Snapchat. The platform has over 7 million subscribers. It has been recording a year-on-year increase in revenue. So, what was the dire need to lay off employees? Look at the bigger story here. The layoffs are in line with the trend. 32,000 techies globally have lost their jobs since the beginning of the year. This is a conservative number, by the way, and we are only just starting the month of February. You must have heard about eBay. The online retailer is cutting 9% of its full-time workforce. Around 1,000 people will be losing their jobs. An American tech company called Front Desk has fired all of its employees over a video call. Google also is cutting jobs. Employees working in digital assistant department will be affected, as will be those in the hardware and the engineering teams. And this is on top of the 100 people who have been laid off already from the advertising and sales team since the start of the year. And then you have Microsoft. It is laying off over 1,900 employees from its gaming division. Amazon has announced layoffs across departments. Audible, which is Amazon's audiobook and podcast service, is firing 5% of its employees. Amazon Prime Video, meanwhile, is laying off employees as well. Twitch is reducing its workforce by 35%. Some 500 people will be getting a pink slip. And we are not done. This is an exhaustive list. Xerox, a company that has become synonymous with photocopy, is firing 15% of its employees. In India, Flipkart is firing at least 1,000 employees. That's 5% of the company's workforce. Swiggy is laying off 7% of its workers. There are other global companies on the list: Unity, Discord, TikTok, Salesforce. They have all announced layoffs this year itself. This trend of mass firing has been there for a couple of years now. Over 240,000 jobs were cut in the year 2023. And this, by the way, was a 50% increase as compared to 2022. What gives? The pandemic overhiring? Sure. It is true that tech companies heavily hired during the pandemic. And as the world moved online, big tech hired big. And now with the pandemic over and the world adjusting to the new normal, the big tech finds itself with fat that it needs to cut. But this is just a small part of the big layoff story. The overhiring is not the only reason techies are losing their jobs after all. Does restructuring have a role to play? Sure, every now and then, companies restructure themselves to cut costs. Microsoft, for example, said that the layoffs were part of a sustainable restructuring plan. But if you notice the trend here, the layoffs this year are more targeted. And they are not just to cut costs. Let's snap back. Snap will have to cough up anything between $55 million to $75 million in severance packages and other exit costs. So it's not really cutting costs in the short term. And this is where AI makes an entry. In the year 2023, Snap launched 2 generative AI features. The first one is a chatbot called My AI. The second is a selfie generator called Dreams. Snapchat is incorporating AI into operations. And is that the real reason behind the mass layoffs? Time for some eye-opening truth. You see, while tech companies are firing people, they are also hiring people. They are hiring employees skilled in AI and machine learning. From Microsoft to Google, they are all trying to make leaps as far as AI is concerned. They are investing big in AI, hiring people skilled in AI. Comp TIA ran a little analysis. It found that jobs requiring AI skills increased by around 2,000 between December and January. In January alone, there were over 33,000 job postings in AI and AI-related fields. And here are some of the roles being offered: AI researcher, AI technical solution lead, generative AI quality engineer, AI data science. You see, the restructuring that we are talking about, has a lot to do with shifting workforce and making space to accommodate AI. It has a lot to do with introducing AI to increase productivity of the existing workforce. Xerox, for example, is firing people to introduce a new operating model. So the moral of the story of big tech and big layoffs: embrace AI or let AI replace you. The choice is yours. What will you choose? Here's another question I want you to think about. Is cancer the great equalizer? I ask that because this killer disease affects kings and the poor alike. Britain's King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. I'm sure you've already heard the news, but have you wondered how cancer managed to get to the British king of all the people? You know, we are often told about things to do and not to do in order to avoid cancer. Maintain a healthy BMI, avoid preservative-laden food, eat fruits, vegetables, don't smoke, exercise regularly, get hepatitis B shots. If you are a woman, get HPV shots, avoid breathing polluted air, don't overexpose yourself to the sun, drink alcohol in moderation if you must, get screened regularly. And here you have a king who is likely to have done it all, if not most things right. Charles was born into a royal family. He had staffers to ensure he eats organic, a medical team to regularly screen his health. And yet, at 75, King Charles is diagnosed with cancer. What gives? Is there no right way to prevent cancer? Is there too little information on what cancer King Charles has, or how it was discovered? The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has told a news outlet that Charles's cancer was quote-unquote caught early. The Buckingham Palace said that one of the reasons the monarch decided to share his diagnosis was to quote-unquote assist public understanding for all those around the world who are affected by cancer. Cancer is the second leading cause of death globally. It accounts for 1 in 6 deaths globally. This is as per the World Health Organization. About 1 in 5 people develop cancer in their lifetime. About 1 in 9 men die from cancer, as do about 1 in 12 women. This disease is as grave as it can get. It is universal and unsparing. Here's a question now. Why isn't there a cure for cancer? You know, we've reached Mars. We are peering into early universe. We are talking AI. Yet somehow, even today, we cannot prevent cancer. When diagnosed early, the cancer is treated, but doctors cannot guarantee that there will not be a relapse, that the cancer will not come back. And why is that? We have found a vaccine for smallpox, a jab for COVID in a year. So why is it so difficult to find a cure for this disease? Why is it beyond the grasp of human science? Let's just understand what cancer is. Here's how the World Health Organization defines it. Cancer is a large group of diseases that can start in almost any organ or tissue of the body when abnormal cells grow uncontrollably, go beyond their usual boundaries to invade adjoining parts of the body and or spread to other organs. The latter process is called metastasizing and is a major cause of death from cancer. A neoplasm and malignant tumor are other common names for cancer. Back to the question of cancer cure. You see, cancer is not one disease, but an umbrella of over 200 diseases. There are different types of cancers. Lung cancer is the most common worldwide. It is followed by breast cancer, prostate cancer, stomach cancer. Within these types, every cancer is different. For example, there are 20 to 30 types of breast cancer, each different from the other, given their unique genetic mutations. The only thing common in every cancer is that you have cells that grow uncontrollably. But drugs that work on one cancer may have no effect on another. And to top that, there is always a chance that the treatment may stop working. The DNA of each cancer cell is constantly mutating. And this allows the cancer cell to adapt and fight treatment. Yes, it is scary. In the year 2022, there were 20 million new cases. 9.7 million people died of cancer that year. This again is a conservative number. What is the most vulnerable age, you ask? Cancer risk increases as we age, but this does not mean that cancer is not detected in the young or that the young do not die of cancer. About 400,000 children are diagnosed with cancer each year. Every day, 42 families learn that their child has cancer. 1 in 285 children is diagnosed with cancer before her 20th birthday. This is according to American Childhood Cancer Organization. Today, more and more women in their 30s are being diagnosed with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. America's National Cancer Institute reporting that cervical cancer is the most often diagnosed in women between the ages of 35 and 44. And who is the most vulnerable to cancer? As per the textbook, it is the elderly, those who carry extra weight. Smokers, those who drink alcohol, have some viral infection like HPV, the human papillomavirus or the hepatitis, also those who are exposed to radiation, including too much ultraviolet radiation from the sun. But then again, you may take all the precautions and still end up with a cancer diagnosis. Cancer is not clear math or something that your astrologer can foretell. By the way, why do you think the star sign is called Cancer? Cancer is Latin for the word crab, and the symbol of cancer is often crab. What about the disease, though? Why is it called what it is? Greek physician Hippocrates is believed to have named cancer as carcinoma. And why is that? Carcinoma is Greek for crab, and a tumor, Hippocrates believed, looks like a crab. It has a central body and the tumor extends like the legs of a crab. So the only thing common between cancer, the star sign, and cancer, the disease, is the shape of a crab. Shifting focus to India now, where the government of the state of Uttarakhand is trying to bring in a uniform civil code. A bill was tabled by the Chief Minister, Pushkar Singh Dhami. It proposes a common law on marriage, divorce, land, property and inheritance for all citizens, irrespective of their religion. If the bill is enacted, Uttarakhand will become the first Indian state to adopt the Uniform Civil Code after gaining independence in 1947. It has been operational in the Indian state of Goa since the days of Portuguese colonial rule. The Uniform Civil Code, or the UCC, is a hotly debated topic in India. It also comes months ahead of the elections in India. It is an important issue because implementing UCC is among the long-running pleasures of Prime Minister Modi's party, the BJP. And as the BJP seeks a third term, UCC is one topic that is bound to keep coming up. So let's just understand what this is all about. A uniform civil code is a set of laws that govern personal matters. The UCC is based on the idea that there is no link between religion and law in modern societies. While it is common practice in many countries to have a uniform code, in India, Hindus, Muslims, Christians and large tribal populations follow their own personal laws and customs. There is also an optional secular code which is used for marriage, divorce, adoption and inheritance. UCC also features in the Indian Constitution. Article 44, corresponding with the directive principles of state policy, says that the state shall try to provide for a citizen a uniform civil code throughout India. So what is the UCC bill that was tabled today? The bill that was tabled by the BJP-led government in Uttarakhand includes recommendations like complete ban on polygamy. It also bans child marriage. Some of the key features of the bill including a proposal to increase the legal age of marriage for girls to 21 years, equal rights for men and women on matters pertaining to divorce, as well as shares in ancestral property. It offers full rights to children who were adopted, born out of wedlock, or conceived through surrogate births. Some of these measures are meant to combat a disturbing trend. In recent years, a majority in the Hindu community tended to marry off daughters after they turned 18, but Islam's Sharia laws do not restrict the marriage of girls who are minors. The state cabinet has given its approval to the draft bill on Sunday. Chief Minister Thami has said that the proposed UCC bill will not only be for the good of all sections, but it also aligns with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. It means welfare for all. According to Indian media reports, a government-appointed panel led by retired Supreme Court Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai drafted the 749-page report. It contains several recommendations. The panel also collected 2.33 lakh pieces of written feedback online. They also organized more than 70 public forums. And during these meetings, panel members engaged with roughly 60,000 people, and that is how the draft came into being. The recommendations in this report are aimed at fostering gender equality and social cohesion. In the state of Uttarakhand, a special 4-day assembly session has started. It will continue till Thursday. The recommendations will be deliberated upon during this session. The proposed uniform civil code in Uttarakhand reportedly goes beyond religious boundaries. It seeks to ban practices like halala and iddat, which are Islamic practices that a woman must go through after a divorce or the death of the husband. The recommendations also promote declaration of live-in relationships once the proposed UCC is in place. Live-in relationships will have to be registered under law. Legal experts claim that registration of such relationships would benefit both men and women. Financial woes continue to mount for China. For the last 2 decades, the country was considered the world's biggest growth story, but that is no longer the case, it seems. A momentous shift is taking place in the global markets. Investors are pulling out billions of dollars from Chinese markets. And where is this money now headed? Well, let me tell you, it's headed to India. That's right. Wall Street giants are endorsing India as the prime investment destination. For the next decade at least, I'm talking about the likes of Goldman Sachs Group Inc. and Morgan Stanley. Hedge fund giant Marshall Wace is also counting on India. It's positioned the country as its biggest bet after the US. Switzerland's Vontobel Holding AG is also doing the same. It has made India its top emerging market holding. The British-American global asset management group Janus Henderson is also looking at fund house acquisitions. Even Japan's otherwise conservative retail investors are embracing India and limiting exposure to China. Simply put, India is gradually becoming the first choice of global investors. And why not? Let's just consider the facts. India, the world's fastest growing major economy, has vastly expanded its infrastructure under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has pushed for bringing global capital and supply lines into India. India's economic growth and the value of its stock market are closely linked. Over the past 2 decades, the GDP and market capitalization have grown hand in hand. Investors now see in India what they used to see in China. That is a vast, dynamic economy which is opening up to global money in new ways. And China, on the other hand, is stuck in its own economic mess. It's also drifting away from the Western-led order. In the US Exchange Traded Fund, or ETF market, the main fund buying Indian stocks received record inflows, while the 4 largest China funds combined saw major outflows. How much exactly? Of almost $800 million. Now, for those unversed, an ETF is basically a collection of investments like equities or bonds. And data shows that for every dollar that has been pulled out of China in the last 2 years, 50 cents have been invested in active funds of India. In mid-January, India briefly overtook Hong Kong, in fact, to become the world's 4th largest equity market. Morgan Stanley predicts it will become the 3rd largest by the year 2030. And making matters worse for China is its real estate crisis. Developers, you see, are starting fewer projects. Once thriving property companies are scrambling for foreign investments. Multi-billion-dollar companies have been pushed to the point of collapse. Millions of unfinished homes were sold but never delivered. More than 50 developers, most of them privately owned, have defaulted on their debt. In China, housing is no longer a safe investment. In contrast, India's real estate sector has been thriving. During the first half of 2023, more than $4 billion flowed into India in the form of private credit. And guess what? 50% of that went into real estate. As you can see, as China is buried under a mountain of economic woes, India is bagging more and more foreign investments. The question is, can China keep up? For some time now, China has been concentrating on space weapons, satellites that can jam radars and delay the detection of incoming hypersonic missiles. We have been telling you about this. Also about the simulations China has been carrying out. Scientists in China now claim to have developed a breakthrough technology. It is a surveillance device that can detect each and every radio signal. Let me just tell you what that means. Scientists in Beijing claim to have come up with a device that can monitor a wide bandwidth of electromagnetic spectrum real time. And how does this help the military, you ask? Well, it helps the PLA detect and lock an enemy signal. And do that at unprecedented speed. Details of this so-called breakthrough were published in a peer-reviewed paper on the 17th of January. The team says their finding will cause a quote-unquote profound shift in the art of war. When engaging in real-time monitoring, militaries can mostly only monitor signals between the range of 40 to 160 megahertz. And this is because of hardware limits. Signals outside this range are monitored by sampling scans. But this has loopholes. You can miss out something important. The Chinese scientists say their breakthrough device has extended the frequency range. The possibilities, they say, are endless. The Chinese PLA will now be able to monitor every frequency range, from those being used for radio enthusiasts to the frequency being used by Elon Musk's Starlink satellites, and also obviously in between you have frequencies being used by militaries like drones, radars, satellites. And then you have clandestine frequencies being used by spy agencies. Any kind of wireless communications. China will be able to capture all of this frequency, process the interactions and analyze them. Or so these scientists claim. The big question is, what will Beijing do with all of that data? The British Defence Services are in a shocking state of mess. Imagine you are part of the largest NATO exercises to take place since the Cold War, but your flagship carrier has to be pulled out at the last minute due to a propeller issue. Well, that is what happened with the Royal Navy's warship, HMS Queen Elizabeth. The misfortune cost the ship dearly, by the way. It was cancelled from participating in the NATO war games. The Royal Navy's largest ship has been sidelined from the mission. The warship was pulled out after routine pre-sailing checks spotted a problem with the starboard propeller. The 65,000-ton warship was replaced by another aircraft carrier, the HMS Prince of Wales. HMS Queen Elizabeth was supposed to take part in exercise Steadfast Defender. As I mentioned earlier, it is the largest NATO exercise since the Cold War. Now, 4 of the British Royal Navy's smallest ships are preparing to head to Norway's Arctic coast in order to take part in the NATO drills. They are the HMS Biter, HMS Blazer, HMS Exploit, HMS Trumpeter. These 4 vessels are called plastic patrol craft. They normally patrol coastlines. They can carry a crew of only 5 in each. They are tiny at just over 20 meters long. During the deployment, these 4 vessels will have to face temperatures averaging -6 degrees Celsius. It can drop to around -30 degrees Celsius in the high north when they sail above the 70th parallel. An embarrassing turn of events for the Royal Navy, to say the least. Despite its standing as the UK Navy's flagship, HMS Queen Elizabeth has suffered multiple mishaps. In the year 2019, a mechanical issue left the warship without propulsion for days, and then it was flooded. Yes, the warship had to anchor off the Britannia Royal Navy College for 24 hours to undergo repairs. And then in 2021, one of the vessel's F-35B fighters crashed in the Mediterranean. The aircraft carrier is touted as capable of carrying 60 aircraft. It is the largest ever built in the UK. HMS Queen Elizabeth was supposed to serve as the maritime centerpiece of the upcoming NATO drills. It was to lead a carrier strike group of 8 ships in the war games. In the year 2024, the Royal British Navy is merely a shadow of its former self. It has become a relic of the past. The UK was once the world's greatest naval power, and now the Royal Navy is plagued by aging fleet and a dramatically shrunken fleet. The reason this is embarrassing is because it shows the dissonance between Britain's military ambitions and what it can do. They do not seem to align anymore. They expose a shocking strategic weakness in the UK's defence capabilities. And this, by the way, comes at a time when the British forces are being called on to operate in multiple regions as multiple conflicts erupt around the world. Is Britain's military ready? Is it equipped to meet new challenges? Can deepfakes steal your money? By now we know that deepfakes mean deep trouble, but what if they can actually cost you money? Now imagine this. You are on a work video call You are under the impression that you are talking to your seniors. It all seems to be going fine. It seems like a usual work call. You are given instructions to do something, and no ordinary instruction, by the way, an instruction to carry out a financial transaction. And you do as you are told. But what if the people you were speaking to were not actually your senior colleagues? What if they were deep fakes? Sounds scary, right? This horrible nightmare actually came to life. And let me tell you this tonight, what we have feared for long is already happening. The victim was a multinational company. Its Hong Kong office fell prey to deep fakes. Let me tell you what happened. It's shocking to say the least. According to a report, deep fakes were used to steal over $25 million. That's over 200 crore rupees. You heard that right. It all happened through deep fake technology. An employee was fooled into thinking that the conversation was actually taking place with colleagues, but they were digitally recreated versions. And you know who all were digitally recreated? The company's chief financial officer and some other employees. Yes, the company's CFO was cloned basically using deep fake technology. And this digitally recreated version ordered money transfers. This was during a video conference call, by the way. How exactly were these fake representations even created? By using the footage that was publicly available. And this was used to create these believable representations. Imagine being part of a video call where all the participants are fake, but they appear and sound real. Sounds scary enough, right? Well, it gets worse. The employee in this case was fooled into following instructions to carry out transfers to 5 Hong Kong bank accounts. The company is to perhaps carry out your own checks to ensure that you are actually talking to real people and not deepfakes. Basically, you can ask the individuals to move their heads or ask them questions, to figure out if they are real people. And the minute requests are made for money, that should be a red flag in itself, and you should have your suspicion radar up. I know it's odd to carry out such checks while you're talking to your colleagues in the first place, but then again, we live in dangerous times. And by the way, today, the 6th of February, also happens to be the Safer Internet Day. The aim, as the name suggests, is to promote responsible use of online technology and mobile phones. In this day and age, given what we are seeing around us with each passing day and how AI is being misused, there is an urgent need to promote the responsible use of online technology before matters get worse. It is the 6th of February, an ominous date for the people of Turkey and Syria. Last year, this day, few hours little before dawn, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit the region. The ground shook for 65 seconds and swallowed entire cities. Just like that, millions of lives were upturned. 50,000 people were gone. What remained were the ruins of cities. Now, a year has passed. The question is, has anything changed? The void still remains, of course. Look at the visuals on your screen now. The barren land that you are seeing, it was once filled with homes and schools and markets, but now it lacks any sign of life. More than 850,000 buildings crumbled in the earthquake and its aftershocks. How many have been rebuilt? It's a question that the people of Turkey are also asking. At the time, Erdogan promised 319,000 homes by February 2024. Well, the deadline is here. What has Erdogan delivered? Fewer than 20,000 homes. What has become a common sight in Turkey are these container cities. These were supposed to be temporary dwellings for earthquake survivors, but now they seem permanent, for the foreseeable future at least. The trailers in these container cities are equipped with water and power, but they have little else to offer. And the situation is worse in Syria, by the way, where the survivors are living in tents. In the Turkish town of Hatay, more than 10,000 people held a vigil in the city center. Others, seething with anger, protested against the government for the negligence in the aftermath.
We did not see any good from the health ministry. They forgot about us. They left us. Everyone was fighting for their lives here. They left people for dead. They left them for dead. Thousands of people died here. Where were they? Why did they leave Hatay like this? Why did they forget about us? That's what I cannot understand.
This anger is only fair. A year has gone by, but people have not been able to rebuild their lives. Hundreds of thousands still remain displaced. As many as 140 people are missing. Some have still not given up the hope of finding their loved ones. Listen in to one such sister's plight.
We waited for 21 days until the last piece of debris were removed. When no results came out of that, I thought maybe we had missed him somehow, and maybe someone had picked him up and taken him to the hospital, because it was like a doomsday. Everything was like a mayhem, and it was not clear who was doing what or where. We started searching for hospitals all over Turkey. We went from city to city and asked hospitals. Maybe they had taken my brother, and if he died there, they had buried him. But we couldn't get any results from that either. If you ask my family, there is hope. They are a little more conservative than me. They think that they can still come back with hopes and prayers. But I think his body was most likely removed along with the debris.
Others are mourning the losses. It's heartbreaking, to say the least.
My daughter Basira passed away. I was patient. God gave me patience. After that, my son Mohsen asked me, did my sister die? I told him, no, your sister is asleep. She is not dead. Then Mohsen and his mother also died. So I was patient. Thank God that he is patient with me and keeps me quiet.
I remember the days. It was cold like this. I remember those hard days. I lost my children. I lost my daughter, son-in-law, my 3 grandchildren. It feels like I am living the same days again. One will never forget, not after 1 year, but even after 1,000 years. I will not forget them until I die. Yes, life is going on, but they are always on my mind. I can't be without them.
Ölene kadar unutmaz. Hiç insanın içinden çıkmaz.
You see, last year we talked about the earthquakes and moved on, but these people did not have that option. For the last 1 year, they have been living this nightmare. When will they get the houses that were promised? When will they ever get back to normalcy? Is that even a possibility? On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Maudi Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
As election fever grips Pakistan, WION gets you all the twists and turns. The row over election and selection. Players who matter and what's at stake.
नौजवानों का मुस्तकबिल मेरी सबसे ज्यादा तवज्जो होगी।
गुर्बत का खात्मा करना होगा। एक बार मौका दीजिए।
अगर आप अपने हुकूक के लिए नहीं खड़े हो, आप गुलामों की जिंदगी गुजारे।
The highs and lows as the campaign peaks.
आगे बढ़ें।
I'm Anas Malik. Catch me on WION as I bring you all the latest updates and developments from ground zero.
Who will emerge as Pakistan's next leader?
I'm Vikram Chandra and join me on WION with 2 weekly shows that will keep you informed. This World, a show that wraps the world's biggest global stories and brings you up close with the biggest newsmakers. This World is coming to you from London, from in front of the White House in Washington, D.C., from one of the most magical sites that I think I have ever been at.
It's completely feasible for India to become one of the world leaders in AI within the next decade or so.
The search for life in the universe is one of the greatest quests of all time.
And a show that aims to bring the India story to the world. We help you understand global developments from an Indian perspective.
We are developing the road infrastructure. In the end of 24, it will be equivalent to the road infrastructure of USA.
We have put up airports which were obliterated from the civil aviation.